Sheikh Omar Faye is the Gambian ambassador to Mauritania. Faye was born on the 10th of January 1960 in Banjul, the Gambia, to Ijaratu Ramatu and Alhaji Tijan Faye.
6 years into my life, my dad started teaching me Quran. Under normal circumstances, that's what we have done. In the good old days, they will teach you from the house before you go to your conventional school. My dad helped me immediately after Fajr prayers. I'm still looking at the house. And after the teachings, then I left and get to a school called Winley Primary School. That is in Banjul. From Winley Primary School, I spent 1 year in Georgetown, and that place was called Methodist Primary School. After Methodist Primary School, I came back to Banjul, to Crab Island Secondary Technical School, which is also in Banjul. And then it was in 1976 that I met a Reverend, Father Joseph Goff, who has identified me and had a chat with me and said, you know what, I can see a lot of potentials in you. Your parents may not be able to pay your high school dues. I'm ready to pay for you. I'm going to support you, but I'll give you two advice. Make sure you work hard on your studies so that you will be respected. Work hard to be one of the best sportsmen in the Gambia so that you will be admired.
His grandfather, also named Sheikh Umar Faye, was an Islamic scholar who was involved in Gambian politics in the early days of the country.
As a young boy, I saw him grow up and was able to expand himself socially and mentally, and was able to mold his own life. As a teacher, in my class, he was the class prefect, very firm but calm, and was able to act when the need arises.
At St. Augustine's, he competed in football, basketball, volleyball, rugby, and track.
هذا أخونا اللي هو الشيخ عمر في سفير جامبي لدى موريتانيا. هو ليس سفير جامبي فقط بل إنما هو سفير للشيخ إبراهيم يسر الله عنه إلى أهل موريتانيا جميعا، وصاحب الأخلاق عالية وأخلاق جميلة. نتمنى له كل التوفيق وتأييد والنصر من الله سبحانه وتعالى.
In June of 1994, I remember, I was given a scholarship. I am blessed and I thank God Almighty for all His favors. I thank my parents. I will always say that. I was the first officer to be sent to Quetta, Pakistan, first Gambian officer to do a company commander's course. I was the first Gambian officer to be sent to the Commandant General Staff College in Fort Leavenworth in June of 1994. And then I left this country of June, around the 13th, 14th of June, and July 22nd, there was a military takeover. And then I was a battalion second in command. I was a staff officer at the army headquarters with my colleagues. So if the coup had found me here, only God knows what's going to happen, because I was almost one of the most senior officers of Gambia. And because of popularity, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I thank God Almighty for sending me out of the country. And barely 1 month, there was a coup. And I received the information that there was a coup. I ended up staying in the United States for almost about 11 years. A course that was supposed to be the best year of my life. A course that I was supposed to do to understand the formations of how senior army structures work, to come back and help my country, so that when the Nigerian team left, we Gambian officers will take over. That's why I went to that course, and I thank the government for giving me that opportunity.
Omar Faye, ambassador, who has been appointed, who was appointed to be a minister before the ambassador post. From Director of Press, he was appointed to become Minister of Youth and Sports. From there, he was also being, like they normally have rotations during that time. You can be changed from this position to another position, or from this ministerial post to another ministerial post, where he was sent to Mauritania for mission or second ambassador.
Faye began his career as an athlete and held the Gambian records in the 100 meters and 200 meters sprint for some time. He represented the Gambia internationally, including at the 1984 Olympic Games where he was the team captain. At the Games, he competed in the 100 meters and 200 meters races, as well as the 4x100 meters relay. He also played rugby for the Gambian national team at this time. He worked as a tutor at the Muslim high school in Banjul.
And my brother of blessed memory, Sheikh Faye, who was an Olympic athlete, was the first Gambian to win a silver medal, or was it bronze, at the Commonwealth Games in 1970 in Edinburgh, Scotland. Sheikh Faye. He was then an area manager at Nissan in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. When he heard about the coup, and I told him that I've just received a letter from the Gambia embassy in Washington that the junta wants me to come back to the Gambia, he looked at me and he told me, I don't trust them. I'm sorry, I don't want you to go back. Because these are young officers, you were very senior to them, I know you were very close to them, you were their friend, but these people now, they're moving in a different platform. You go in there, I don't think it's a good idea. I followed the advice of my elder brother, and I stayed in the US, had a family in the US, be given all the documents I want. And may I take the opportunity to also thank the United States for telling me that you can live here as long as you want, indefinitely. And I stayed there for 10 years. When former president visited New York, President Jammeh, Abdul Aziz, James Junkung, and some officers called me, I still remember the calls, and said that we have arranged for you, we will have to meet President Jammeh. So I said, yes, when a president calls you as a Gambian, then I moved out of Atlanta and traveled to New York, and I found President Jammeh. And as usual, we joke and we exchange pleasantries. And he told me, my son, though he always calls me my son. You know, there is this joke between our tribes. I'm sure you may have that in your countries, where the Jolas will make fun of the Sere. They call it Sanaoya here in Mandinka. Moi Kal, the Wolof will call it Kal. And he said, my son, I think you should go back home. We don't have any problems with you. You were a fine officer. I even heard that your mom has passed away and you have not gone back to the Gambia. And they said, well, you are supposed to be meeting the president for about 30 to 40 minutes. The protocol told me. And I told them that even if I meet him for 10 minutes, as long as we exchange kindness and pleasantries, that's fine for me. Guess what? We stood for 7 hours. From 30 minutes to 45 minutes, I was supposed to see the president. We stayed for 7 hours. And now we were remembering our days in the armed forces. My days as a sportsman. My days when I used to be in the Olympics. So the president remembered and we recalled a lot of nice things that have happened. In other words, we went through memory lane. And now he said, you want to go back to the Gambia, you're welcome. We don't have a problem with you. But you want to stay in the United States too, but I just want to let you know that you are welcome. And he dipped his hand in his pocket and took out a lot of dollars. And he said, you can buy your ticket, take care of yourself. When you're ready, we'll take care of you, we'll see you in the Gambia. This is how I returned I told my family, I've met President, I told my colleagues, I told my friends that I've taken a decision after consultation with my family that they want me to go back home. My family miss me in Gambia and they feel I can contribute. Then I was a supervisor in a company called Bias Engineering. And I called my boss and gave the phone. Eventually the company was changed and called STS. A lot of Gambians in Atlanta will confirm to you that I used to work for a company called STS because it's a small community. So when I drove my double cabin with my laptop and my cell phone, everybody knew that I was working for a company because I found job for a lot of Gambians that were in Atlanta, some of whom are still working on those companies, including my big brother, Sheikh Faye. So I called my boss and said, General, we used to call my boss General. He was a sergeant in the armed forces. I said, my boss wants to talk to you. He said, who? I said, the president. He said, oh my God, you're putting me on the spot now. I've never spoken to a president before. So I gave him the phone. And former President Jammeh told him, General, how are you? Yeah, your man was my boss in the armed forces, but now I am his boss. I'm president. And we all laughed over it. This is my relationship with President Jammeh. So we finished that program. I got my ticket. I told my family. A lot of people were happy. A few would have said, oh, don't go back. Why? I said, there's nowhere like home. Yes, I was very comfortable in the States, but there's nowhere like home. Then January on 2005, I returned home, and I wanted to come and run my own security company and just be free and be happy. But the State House called me. I was not even thinking that I'll be working with the government. I was already, learn to be independent. Learn to be independent in those, you see. And everybody should learn to be independent. In America, that's something I learned. Learn to be independent. Stop blaming people. Do your best. Work hard. You wanna enjoy life? You wanna be comfortable? You don't wanna work? Sheikh Ibrahim said then you are ready for crookery. So I decided to come back home, and I was starting to rest. A good friend of mine, Lesan, Idi Job, he gave me what they call soft landing with a brother called Amadou Samba. And they said, oh, Idi said, you can come to rest in my house, spend some time. And then we got a phone call from the State House. And then they said, the president said, what do you want? I said, what do I want? I'm happy, thank him for everything, I'm home. He said, no, but what job do you want to do? I told him that whatever the president thinks I can do to help Gambia, I'm ready, but I will never be here to choose a job. Next day, the Secretary General called me, Honorable Mamboure Njai. I'm telling you, and I don't want to be even naming too many names here, but sometimes it's important because we are talking about a documentary. The truth and nothing but the truth. My father always insisted that even if you are in a firing line, the truth and always the truth. So when something happened when we were younger, my dad will always say, wait for Sheikh Omar to come. I know he'll tell me the truth. I'm thankful that I will never lie to anybody. I will never undermine anybody. I will never be jealous of anybody. I will always know that it's Allah who gives people. So coming back to the story, Secretary General, our brother, who's been a brilliant brother, high school mate, he used to be a wonderful football player, Honorable Mamboure Njai. Recently, he was Minister of Finance. He's been Foreign Affairs, I don't know, higher education. He's been in many portfolios. And he was then Secretary General and head of the Civil Service. Honorable Mamboure called me. Hey, Major, how are you? Then a lot of them used to call me Major Faye. President says I should always, what do you want? What kind of job are you looking for here? What do you want to be in government? I think maybe somebody was thinking that I say I want to be minister. I said, you know what? I will never choose a job here. I was not trained like that. Anywhere that President Jammeh thinks I can help Gambia, he knows me, he knows my background. And the third call, they said, okay, the president says you have to report. He's appointed you as Director of Press and Public Relations at the office of the president. I said, wow. Somebody said, how can they, he's never been a journalist, but Jammeh has a good vision. It's not about journalism. He thought my PR was very good, but he was also introducing me to the government system so that I know how to handle files, how to minute files, and lots of other things. So I reported at State House. I was given a job. And I remember Mamburen Njai, former Secretary General, Dr. Njogu Ba, brilliant brother who was in Atlanta, Georgia, who eventually became Secretary General and Minister responsible for presidential affairs, Mr. Baimbu, my nephew. So all were there. Alaji Modu Sanyang of blessed memory, GRTS, they all used to converge and hang around my office. And I did that job. I think President was happy. I know the system. I know that. And he told me, he said, I sympathize with you. I said, but Your Excellency, why? He said, because you've left this place for too long and things have changed. He said, people have changed, things have changed. So whatever happens, then I took the job. Then after 6 months, I was called one morning and said, President has taken a decision to make you the Minister of Youth and Sports.
Life everywhere is fraught with problems. And one's success is dependent upon the amount of resolutions and determinations coupled with genuine efforts to meet great odds. This was Omar. Life, however it was, he was able to manage with it and carried out on with it. I cherished him because of his respect he has for humankind, the respect he has for himself, and was able to bear anything that comes across his line.
Faye, where Sheikh Omar Faye came from in Gambia, was Sheikh Ibrahim's home. Whenever he comes to Gambia, he will always come to Faye, which is Sheikh Omar Faye's home. That is his home.
Faye joined the Gambian National Army in 1983 and became an officer cadet that year. In 1984, he was sent to Royal Military Academy Sandhurst to train. Later in his Army career, he also trained at the United States Army Command and General Staff College. Part of his service was spent as part of a peacekeeping force in Liberia. He left the Army in 1994.
He was a rule maker in the sense that, very polite, very humble in that sense, and also a very good speaker, or you can say an orator. And, withstanding also, he is very cautious in, family or with family matters. He is always ready to assist or ready to help or ready to give advices. Where, we always look at him and say he resembles his grandpapa, who is Sheikh Omar Faye, in many areas in life. And he has traveled also length and breadth of this continent or country, like our great grandpapa, Sheikh Omar Faye, being named after him. So Omar, for that matter, I will always say he is a mentor. He is an element that most of people can take him to be an example. So, for short, that this what I can start up with and talk about his life as a student or as a child, and then grow up here, and then as also work for this country.
I found myself in Mauritania for the first time. That was towards the end of 2007. I became the deputy head of mission and deputy ambassador of the Republic of the Gambia to the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. So I'm going to Mauritania for the second time. I was there, guess what? For 7 good years. Brilliant people, very polite, very peaceful. We enjoyed our stay. I was with Ambassador Mamadou Badji, retired colonel, whom I have served with in the armed forces. Brilliant fellow with his family. We all stayed there as a team until I was recalled in 2014. The same former President Jammeh, me and him come a long way. He's taken me to many places. After serving in Mauritania, I was recalled and I wrote to him, I thank him for giving me the opportunity to serve the country. And within 2 weeks, I've received another letter saying that the president wants you to go back to Mauritania. And we were all excited because I love to be there. All the Talubes, the students and everything that we used to spend in the Mahadaras, they're all excited. We're all celebrating. Within 24 hours, I was called in the State House and said, there is a change of heart. Change of heart? They said the president is sending you to Washington, D.C. instead of Mauritania. I said, wow. Wonders never stop happening. I was given a letter and started packing my stuff to Mauritania. Within a day or two, no, not even 2 days, within 1 day, I got another call saying that President Jammeh, the former president, said he's now wanting you to go to Washington and not Mauritania. So I packed my stuff and head to, that is the second trip to Washington, where I was chargé. I know you read a lot in international information, but you're hearing from the horse's mouth. Facts, nothing but facts. 2014, I went there as deputy head of mission, but I was chargé because at some there was no ambassador. They've not appointed an ambassador yet. So what you do in the diplomatic terminology, you are a chargé. You're just like ambassador, but you've not been given the accreditation yet. So I served there from 2014, regrouped with my people. Those days, I will tell you, it was difficult to serve the Jammeh regime in Washington. You will not even mention his name there. There were a lot of people who were against the government because they talked about human rights and lots of things. So to go to that job, you're going on to something like a battleground. But I stood my ground. I'm a Gambian, and I've known a lot of people that went to school with. So I went there for them to understand that the Gambia is bigger than Yaya Jammeh. The Gambia is bigger than Sheikh Omar Faye. So why do you want to put everything Jammeh, Jammeh? Let us look at Gambia. So a lot of people accepted what I said. We came together. And then that was 2014. 2015, I was then written a letter from the same former President Jammeh and said that because of your loyalty, your professionalism and hard work, the president has decided to elevate you to ambassador of the Gambia to the United States. Normally that don't happen. Normally when you have Sajeh, they will appoint somebody else to come. 99%. Very seldom they will appoint the Sajeh as ambassador. Mostly you just hold the fort until the person comes, you hand over. But former president, as usual, defied all the odds and appointed the person of his choice. And I received the letter. They took care of all the paperwork, and I received what they call agreement from the United States government, and I presented my credentials to President Barack Hussein Obama. And we had a joke at the State House. I told him, it looks like I'm taller than you, and he said, well, just a little bit. And we joked around. I was there with a couple of my kids. And that's how I stayed as ambassador until after the election of 2016 and the beginning of 2017. That's when I was recalled by the new government. In the diplomatic terminology, when you're recalled, then in the Gambian laws, in the Gambian Foreign Service, I have 90 days to prepare myself to head back. Because then, that's when the former president accepted the result and we all applauded him, the whole world celebrated. But after 9 days or so, he disagreed. He said that he's not going to accept the result. So there was a lot of chaos. And I was recalled. And then after when President Jammeh left, I stayed on. But again, I got another recall from the new government. But I told them that there is time for everything. And in diplomacy, you were posted. At some stage, you were recalled. I said, there's nothing. And my family told me, okay, let's have a meeting, Dad. Do you want to stay in the United States? We've already had a place for you, and you can continue your life here. I told them, there is nowhere like home. Put my stuff in the container. I'm heading back to Banjul, heading back to Jollof. I miss home. I want to go home. That was in 2017. So all the information you are hearing is from 2014 to 2017.
I went to his office one day and asked him, Omar, what are you? He said, teacher, I am a simple human being. I said to him, Omar, you will be somebody one day, you would never know how God created you. He said to me, teacher, I leave everything in the hands of the Almighty. He is a believer, a staunch believer, a staunch Muslim. He can recite the Holy Quran from page to page, from cover to cover. No doubt, he hailed from a Muslim family, from an Islamic surrounding. You ask him any question in the Quran, he would vividly and readily give the answer to the best of his knowledge. I cherish him because he loves me, and I love him too. I love him not for anything, but for the respect that he has for me and for himself, and the love he has for this country, and how he was able to perform and manage his life during his stewardship as a minister. I will not forgive him if I do not say that he is a young man who commands an ego of leadership, an honest and intelligent man, easy to grasp things and capable of sustaining mental efforts under pressure.
I am proud today as a Gambian, and I thank the former government, former president. I bought the embassy through the government. For the first time, the Gambia owns a property in the United States of America called the Embassy of the Gambia. I will never forget that favor that Allah has done. Through the former government, the former president, we bought a property at 5630 16th Street in Washington, D.C. And that's the same road you go all the way, it deads end into Pennsylvania Avenue to the White House. The Gambian flag is flying, and I thank the team that helped me to achieve that. And I also thank a Gambian, Modu Kamara, who was helping me to do the real estate job because that's his area. Thank to the former president and his directives that you should get hold of Omar, you all should buy a place. And then eventually I packed my stuff, returned back to the Gambia. To cut a long story short, after I returned, 3-4 months, I was told that president was looking for me. Why is Sheikh Omar? But nobody tells him anything. So you know, Gambia, you have to understand Gambia to understand. The leader was asking for somebody, and nobody will tell him he's around. But I know what should happen, Allah will do it. Someday, I received a call from the former Secretary General. After 4 months that I've enjoyed family in the Gambia, because I miss the Gambia so much. So I spent time with my family, 4 months, doing nothing. A report at Fajara, and the president said it was almost time to pray. And I remember Tro Jaune, who's now commander of the Republican Guard, told the president that he is our boss. He's been our senior in the armed forces. So president said, don't worry, I know him. I know Omar, I've seen him in the armed forces. I know more than he thinks I know him. We went to pray, and after we prayed, they asked me to do the closing prayer. And after I went with the president in his office, then that's when they offer me chargé at the Gambia Embassy in Abu Dhabi. Some family members said I should not take it. Why do I have to live as ambassador? And now they're making me chargé. And some of the brothers, including Imam, he says, you know what? You're serving the Gambia. It's not about position. So, and I agree to it that I'm serving the country. It's not about position. I ended up in Abu Dhabi. We helped reopen the embassy because that embassy was closed. And I thank the team that was with me. And after we opened the embassy, they appointed the ambassador, Ambassador Fansu Jamme, I believe, who used to be at the Civil Aviation Authority, a wonderful Gambian. And I was appointed as Consul General to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in Jeddah. And after 1 year of my service as Consul General, I think my staff supported me. We did a good job, took care of the people that are coming for Hajj. I had special opportunities there. I went for Hajj. I went for Umrah uncountable times. And then Ambassador Omar Jibril Sallah, that consummate diplomat, highly experienced person, was our ambassador and still our ambassador in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And guess what? I had the opportunity to get into the Kaaba. They opened the Kaaba, and myself and a few ambassadors went into the Kaaba. Things that my grandfather Sheikh Omar Faye never had, my father Ahmad Tijan with his brothers, Muhammadul Kabir, none of them. But I'm saying that just to say, God, thank you for all your favors. This is when, after 1 year, that I received a call from the president, from the office of the president. And I remember it was my brother who said that call. Ambassador Alaji Sise, Chief of Protocol. And he said, hey, my brother. He always called me my brother. We all grew up together. We used to come here, visit me very often. Nice fellow. Very interested in sport. So when I was an athlete, he was so interested in sport that he always stopped by the house to visit myself and Suleiman Makadu. He said, hold on, President will want to talk to you. I said, wow, President. And President, hey, Sheikh Omar, how are you? How is Jeddah? I have taken a decision to appoint you as Minister of Defense. I said, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. La hawla wa la quwwata. And President said, yeah. I said, thank you, Excellency. I thank God Almighty. And I thank you for remembering me, that you should give me this job. That's why I say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. This is how everything ended up. Jeddah said, we've just started with you. We're doing well. Now you are going again. And we say, just say it, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Allah will replace better people. That's how I pack my stuff and start heading to the Gambia. On the 22nd of August, 2019, it took the Gambia some time before they appoint a standalone Ministry of Defense, because it was a difficult appointment. A lot of people wanted to get that job, but the president was very careful. It's a job that you don't just give to anybody. It took them, since the National Security Policy in 2017 and the National Security Strategy, the Security Sector Reform Strategy, until I came, and I thank God Almighty, for the first time I spearheaded the Gambia Defense Policy, the first ever Gambia Defense Policy. And I have to thank my team, permanent secretaries, the entire staff, the leadership of the armed forces, but the President of the Republic, who encouraged that we should move on. And the British High Commission, with the British government, funded the first ever defense policy. And I took Honorable Sheriff Gomez and our former colleagues to be part of it. The Colonel Lawrence Jara, Colonel Babukar Jata, and lots of officers. We invited former CDSs and the press giants, the Major Njai. We've written to all of them. Everybody who served in the then Gambian army, I've invited them to come and converge, and my former colleagues, to craft the first ever defense policy of the Gambia. And I'm proud to say today that I have been sworn into cabinet in September 2019, and until my time was up, there is time for everything. And I thank the President for the opportunity. I thank Gambians for their support. And in May, I was relieved and appointed eventually as ambassador. The President said, I will not let you go. You've done what you can in defense. Now I'm going to use you again in my team, my foreign policy team. and you're going to be appointed as ambassador of the Gambia back to your place. He said, "This is, you know that place. You have to go back in there. That is your place." I want to take the opportunity to thank my parents, my siblings, and the neighborhood, and all those that contributed to my career. I want to thank Reverend Father Joseph Goff, Lieutenant Colonel Clive Lee, and the former president, first president of the Republic of the Gambia, Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. May Allah be pleased with him and his entire government for the trust. And Sir Dawda accepted my promotions as officer from second lieutenant to the rank of major. He also accepted that I lead the parade for the Silver Jubilee 25 years of independence of the Gambia, and also accepted the recommendation to lead the Gambian company to the peacekeeping company to represent the Gambia to Liberia. I want to say thank you to Sir Dawda. I want to take the opportunity to also thank former President Jammeh for the confidence and the various appointments. And now I want to have a special thank you to President Adama Barrow, who has appointed me to be the first Minister of Defense in the new dispensation of the Republic of the Gambia. He appointed me as Consul General to Jeddah, appointed me as Chargé and Deputy Head of Chief of Mission in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, and finally, another opportunity, mashallah, appointing me as Gambia's ambassador to the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. I want to say thank you, President Barrow, and your administration for the confidence. Once again, I thank all Gambians, both in the Gambia and the diaspora, who has contributed in helping me to get to where I am today. I want to say thank you very much.